Welcome. We're about to go on a journey to a place where the geography isn't just some boring backdrop. No, it's one of the main characters in the story. We're going to see exactly how mountains, rivers, and solid rock literally shaped the destinies of entire kingdoms in ancient Transjordan. And that really gets to the heart of the whole thing, doesn't it? How does a landscape actually shape a story? Well, in Transjordan, the very ground people walked on decided where the trade routes went, where battles were fought, and even how safe a whole nation felt. So let's get our bearings. We're heading east, across the Jordan River, into the region we call Transjordan. And we're going to do this systematically, traveling from the volcanic highlands all the way in the north down to the sandstone kingdoms in the south. Okay, so our journey kicks off in the pretty dramatic volcanic north. In the Old Testament, this place was called Bashan, an area you might recognize today as the Golan Heights. And this is not your average landscape. This place was literally forged by fire. And here's where it gets really interesting. The geology and the culture are completely tied together. See, the whole area is covered in basalt from old volcanoes, and when that rock breaks down, it creates this incredibly rich soil. This made the region famous for two things: cattle and wine. And where there's wealth, a unique culture usually pops up. This fertile land eventually became home to the Decapolis, a league of 10 really cool Greek-style cities. Geography doesn't just create opportunity, it also creates boundaries. And what separates this volcanic north from everything to the south is the Yarmuk Wadi. And this isn't just a little river. We're talking about a massive, breathtaking canyon that acts like a huge natural wall, a clear line on the map dividing two completely different worlds. Once we're south of that canyon wall, we find ourselves in the region of Gilead. Now, if Bashan was a land of plenty, well, Gilead was a land of conflict. Its geography made it a prize that was just too good to ignore, which meant it was pretty much always a war zone. So why was it fought over so much? Well, because Gilead sat right on top of what you could call the ancient world's superhighway. The main trade route running north-south, the Transjordanian Highway, went straight through it. If you controlled Gilead, you controlled everything: trade, armies, information. It was the crossroads of the entire region. And the fighting here was unbelievably brutal. This quote from the prophet Amos, it uses this powerful farming metaphor. A threshing sled was this heavy board with sharp rocks or iron spikes on it, used to tear grain apart from the stalk. So to say an army threshed a people with iron sleds, that's just a horrifying image of violence and cruelty. It really shows you how high the stakes were for this piece of land. All right, let's keep moving south. The landscape shifts again, and it's another dramatic change. We cross more huge canyons and enter the rugged, rocky lands of the southern kingdoms, Moab and Edom. And out here, the story is all about defense and a kind of defiant pride. The kingdom of Edom was notoriously hostile. You might remember the story where the Israelites, led by Moses, were trying to get to Canaan. They asked the king of Edom if they could just pass through his lands, and the king's answer was a hard no. This wasn't just a small inconvenience either. It forced them to take a long, brutal detour all the way around the kingdom. Their entire journey was dictated by the politics of this one place. And the Edomites got their confidence straight from their geography. Their capital, the incredible city of Petra, wasn't just built in the mountains, it was literally carved out of them. Imagine, a city surrounded by a fortress of towering sandstone cliffs, and the only way in is through a narrow little canyon. You can see why they believed they were impregnable, invincible, even. But that pride didn't go unanswered. The prophet Obadiah had this powerful message aimed directly at Edom's sense of security. He basically said, hey, even if you build your home as high as an eagle's nest, you are not beyond reach. It's just a powerful reminder that even the most amazing geographical defenses can't protect you forever. Now we're going to pivot west and look at the most dominant, the most significant geographical feature in the entire region, the Great Rift Valley. It's this massive geological trench that holds both the Jordan River and, of course, the Dead Sea, which is famously the lowest point on the face of the earth. Of course, the thing everybody knows about the Dead Sea, or the Sea of Salt, which is a better name for it, is how incredibly salty it is. The water has a salt content of around 35%. Now, to really get how insane that is, you have to compare it to other bodies of water. So to put that into perspective for you, a normal ocean has about 4% salt content. The Great Salt Lake out in Utah, around 8%. The Dead Sea at 35%. It's just in a completely different league. It's that incredible density that lets you float so easily. And get this, the river that feeds the Dead Sea has the perfect name for the job. The name Jordan comes from the Hebrew word yarad, which just means to go down. And that is exactly what it does. It descends super fast from about 700 feet below sea level at the Sea of Galilee to over 1,300 feet below sea level at the Dead Sea. The river's own name tells the story of its landscape. So our whole journey is going to wrap up at a single spot that pulls all of these different themes, geography, trade, conflict, all of them together. We're ending at the ancient city of Beit Shan, a place that basically acted as the hinge for the entire region. So what exactly is a geopolitical hinge? Well, think about a pair of pliers. You've got the two big arms that do all the work, but it's that simple little pin in the middle, the hinge, that holds it all together and gives it all its power. For this part of the ancient world, Beit Shan was that hinge. And you can literally see its long, complicated history right there in the ruins. The original Israelite city was what's called a tell. It's a high, man-made mound built for defense. But centuries later, in the Roman period, it was completely rebuilt as Scythopolis, a massive, sprawling city right on the valley floor. It was all about showcasing power and commerce, not just hiding behind walls. Its location was just perfect. Beit Shan was right at the exact intersection of two vital routes, the north-south highway through the Jordan Valley and the east-west highway through the Harod Valley. If you controlled this one city, you controlled movement in every direction. It really was the ultimate strategic prize. Which brings us right back to our big question from the beginning. We've seen how the very shape of the land in Transjordan dictated wealth, war, and the fate of entire nations. So it makes you wonder, right? If geography is an active character in the story of history, what stories are being written by the map of your world right now?